CRM data and first-party data are becoming very important in terms of precision marketing.
AI is kind of useless if the data going in is not
Yeah.
the right data.
You can essentially use that data to enrich your targeting activities throughout a customer's interaction journey with you.
The hardest things for a technical person to do is communicate their technical expertise. Hey, it's Ronsley. Welcome, you AI geek, to Amplify AI. Consider this podcast your digital compass for you, the business leader wanting to use artificial intelligence ethically and in alignment with your brand's identity to achieve your business goals. Leading and running a business in the world of AI is like solving a Rubik's Cube blindfolded. But this podcast and I are here to make that easy. Every episode is a masterclass in unlocking techniques for using AI as a business leader, founder, owner. Thanks for being here. Let's learn. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. It's Ronsley. This is episode 71 of Amplify AI, and I'm talking with Schmidt, who is the President and Chief Growth Officer at RAPP in the MENA region. He has an insane resume and has worked in different places all over the planet, from Qatar, from Canada originally. I've gotten to know him and spend time in his office and see how much work they do in data. And we talk about how to ethically use data and how it's important when it comes to the collection of data and the usage of data. And especially in the world of AI, why data is such an important part. And we have to understand that the data that it has is what informs it. So if the data is biased, that's what it's going to be informed in. And that's why this is really important for you and me to be involved in the conversation of not having biased data, because that will be amplified by the use of AI. All right, let's learn. What I really want to get into the meat and potatoes of this interview is data insights. Artificial intelligence is a big topic right now, and AI is kind of useless if the data going in is not the right data. But I'd first love for you to explain to us what is CRM and what is precision marketing, and how you can integrate these data insights into developing a strategic business initiative.
CRM is all around first-party data, and first-party data is identifiable data. So, for instance, I'm Schmidt, that's my name, my phone number, my email address, so I can be identified as an individual. That's, in a nutshell, what CRM data is, first-party data. And that first-party data can go into a much broader data set, in terms of what, you can call even a golden record, or, a 360-degree view of the customer, where you have behavioral data, interaction data, device data, and that can all basically go into, let's say, a unified profile of who this person is based off of identifiable and non-identifiable data that forms a view of that person. CRM data and first-party data are becoming very important in terms of precision marketing in the data value chain, like, let's say, at the end of the day, AI, because the data landscape in general is changing. The deprecation of the cookie is becoming a real thing. So media data, it's becoming a cookieless world. And what that means is essentially you can't start using the data that's collected on websites for retargeting purposes as easily as you once could. First-party data, you can essentially use that data to enrich your targeting activities throughout a customer's interaction journey with you. So first-party data, CRM data, precision marketing can help you with retargeting within media. So advertisements when you're in SEO or on a Google page and you're having those banner ads, to a website and real-time interaction. So what are you looking for? How does the website evolve and become more personal based off of what pages you're looking at, through to purchasing that product, and then the customer life cycle of owning that product. Precision marketing essentially helps you out with all of that, where it's using first-party data as a catalyst or the bedrock, and then enriching all of those other data points through what you can use, for instance, a clean room, where you're starting to stitch together other data. It gets a little bit complicated, but this is essentially what we do. And through the stitching together of data, you can start taking data of an individual to content to content. So like the content itself, like the creative application is meta tagged as well. And you can basically connect the dot between a personal individual's data and content data, and then that will be served up onto that touch point. And the more data that you have about that individual, the more precise you can be. And the more precise you can be, the more stitching together can happen with those different content pieces. And then that real-time interaction can happen. So if you think about Netflix has over 1 million different content pieces. So for instance, if you were to take Good Will Hunting, if I, for instance, have a different, my list or my shows viewed might have a different profile than what you viewed. Right. And then when we both look at Good Will Hunting, for me, it might be a scene of Matt Damon and Robin sitting on a bench, where versus you, it might be, I don't know, them sitting in one of the rooms down below having some beers based off of the data that is being extracted.
Collected.
So that's essentially what we do. And then behind that is then the predictive, and then the machine learning, then ultimately the artificial intelligence.
I love it. Thank you for that explanation, because we all have access to data in some capacity, whether it was small business, medium business, big business. And that is becoming more and more important to be used and have relevance in how we operate. What's the best way to start using that data? Now, when you start collecting them is one thing, but then using that and then using that ethically, how does that all fit into the picture?
First, collecting, you can collect a plethora, endless data on people, right? There's a lot of data out there. It's collecting the right data, and it needs to map back to ultimately your business goals, right? Like, what are you as a business trying to do? And that data needs to be collected in an ethical way that's consented, and there needs to be a value exchange, right? So previously, with, for instance, old school CRM or traditional marketing, there was some sort of incentive outside of making value through the product itself. So coupons, discounts, rebates, whatever it was, to incentivize that value exchange between individual and company. And that value exchange is let's say the facilitator is the data. When you know that you are providing true value, is that you don't have to incentivize things to get that data from the consumer. So they have to see that data that you're receiving from them will enrich the experience, which will allow them to find the products and the services that they want quicker, faster, smarter. That's the silver bullet. And then in doing that, you need to be asking yourself, what data do I actually need to collect to make that value exchange smooth and seamless, right? And authentic. And if you have to collect more data, or data that is, going to be used for some form of artificial incentivization, so a rebate or whatever, you're probably missing the mark. You really have to get at the crux of why is that consumer or that customer speaking with you, and how do you ask for their data to then truly and authentically enrich that relationship, so there's a value exchange. They give you the data, you give the product or service in a more efficient, better way that they wouldn't have received without you using the data to deliver it.
Right. So the value creation is the key.
Absolutely. Right. Authentic value creation.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that customer's coming to you for a specific purpose, and you need to make that as lean and as convenient as possible.
I love that. I mean, you've been working in different places, North America, Europe, China, now Middle East.
Yeah.
How has the different cultures and the approach to how they do business, has it changed your view of marketing and your approach to marketing? How has that influenced you?
Every country is different. For instance, I'm Canadian, but when I was working in Germany, it's sort of direct. It's that direct communication. It's very transparent. In China, things are more, let's say, indirect and descriptive in terms of coming to alignment, understanding what people want. Here in Dubai, we've got 19 nationalities working in our office, and it's to ensure that you have an inclusive environment. I think at the end of the day, the one common or the red thread between all of the places that I've worked is that you have open, authentic, and clear communication, right? And make sure that whatever that message is, whatever you're trying to communicate, that the people within the company or the end consumers understands it, right? But like physically working in these countries, it's the thing that makes or breaks it is always down to just communication, common value systems, inclusivity, making sure that everyone's heard. And yeah, I run a fairly flat structure because I have to have a lot of SME subject matter experts. I'm not a data scientist. I understand what they generally do, but I can't do that as a profession. I'm also not a brand strategist. Do I understand what they do? Generally, yes. So I'm, let's say, T-shaped. I'm a generalist, and I can have all of these different conversations, and I get how these things come together. So my job is to sort of guide and steer the different teams through communication on what that common purpose is. Why are we doing these things? What's the ultimate objective? So for me personally, it comes down to communication is at the crux of everything that I do, regardless of country, nationality.
I'd love to touch on communication because I think that's an important part here. When you say communication, are there some practices or frameworks or general rules that we should follow? Because one of the hardest things for a technical person to do is communicate their technical expertise. And likewise, I feel that I might want to explain something and it could potentially be a straight line, but when I'm explaining it feels like a zigzag when I could be very succinct in the way I explain it. Is there a way to communicate?
There's a couple of ways. One, how you do communications, it needs to be accessible. So regardless of if you're a technocrat in this specific area or if you're a generalist or you're completely new to it, it needs to be explained in a way that everyone can understand it and can use that as the brief, right? I do a lot of visuals. Also, I'm a visual learner. I'm left-handed, I'm right-brained. So I remember things as visuals, but pictures is worth 1,000 words, right? So I draw a lot. I'll just get out the marker, and we've got glass everywhere, and I'll just scribble on the glass to make sure that visually everyone gets it. And then ultimately, when the teams are about to go away, I usually get them to explain it back to me and explain it to the group. Because we have also, a lot of ESL here, English as a second language, and so there we have, let's say, multi-speeds of where people are at. Right. And that usually those three things, keep it simple, plain language, visualize it if you can, and get them to explain it back to you. Those are kind of the three things that I do.
Hey, AI Geek. Thanks for listening. Your job doesn't stop here. I want you to lend your voice to the conversation. So you can join those conversations, discussions, new trainings, new recordings, and the rest of the AI Geeks by going to aigeeks.co. Also, share this podcast with a friend, another potential AI Geek. Until then, much love.